Welcome back. It is the Burns and Gambo show here on Arizona Sports, the local sports leader, and obviously the news of the week, the news of the month, maybe even the news of the year is the Arizona Coyotes franchise relocating to Salt Lake City as part of a sale. And obviously all the emotions and all of the news that comes from that. Gambo has been at the forefront of reporting some of this news over the last couple of weeks. And joining us right now in studio here on the Burns and Gambo show, the now former owner of the Arizona Coyotes. I believe that's the correct way to refer to Alex Meruelo, but if I am referring to you incorrectly, I apologize for that. Alex, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you to be on your show, both of you individuals. I appreciate it. And I still own the team. So it has gone from being active to inactive, but I currently own the team as we speak.
So to refer to you as the owner of the Coyotes would still be accurate because you are the owner of that property as we know it, right?
That is correct.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Meruelo. We really appreciate you coming in and Javier coming in as well. Thank you. Final home game on Wednesday night at Mullet Arena. A lot of emotions were very high. A lot of people are very sad right now, but I just want to get your feeling. You weren't at the game, and I just want to understand why. Why did you choose to stay away from that game that night?
Well, I didn't choose. I was still working after this morning. I was working on the deal and getting all the logistics and all the paperwork done, corrected. And it was a process that went all the way through this morning. I watched the game on TV, and it just made me, it was gut-wrenching. It was just so much enthusiasm. It confirms what I already know, that hockey belongs in the desert, and that's what we plan on doing so in the future, in the near future.
A lot of people, they're angry over the loss of their hockey team, which you can understand. Fans, employees, stadium workers. And I know in some ways it's affected you and your family, and I want you to answer that too, because I think a lot of people don't understand how it's affected you and your family. But what responsibility do you feel you need to take in their pain right now, and then how has it affected you personally?
Well, look, of course it's affected my family, but I don't really, that's part of the sports, right? What's really bothering me is, of course, the fans. That's the most important part to me. And to address the fans is to understand that I didn't just sell out the team. I'm here. I'm committed. I am fully committed to going forward with the process of reactivating the team, which begins June 27th when I purchase the land auction. I think that is the most important part the fans need to know, is that I understand it sucks. It's heartbreaking. And with that, we have plans to move forward. I think it's also important, again, is I didn't sell the team. I could have moved on. I'm committed. I love Arizona. I love the team. And we're going to make this project a reality come June 27th.
Ultimately, Alex, what convinced you that this was the right move? Who convinced you? What convinced you? What set of circumstances made you decide this is what needs to be done? And kind of walk us through the timeline of that a little bit from your perspective.
Well, what happened was I had never had any intention of selling the team. It was never I've been offered for the time I got here to just recently if I was interested in selling the team, and it's always been no, I'm not interested in selling the team. What happened was that Bill Daly and Gary Batman came on March 6th to visit myself and basically said, what are you doing? What's the future of the team? And I kind of felt like they were asking me if I wanted to sell the team, and I said, absolutely, I'm not interested in selling the team. That's not going to happen. And they said to me, can you look your players in the eyes and tell them when they can expect to have a new arena built? And I looked at them and stared and said, no. He goes, it's not fair to the players, to their families, and to hockey operations not knowing how long it will take to build this arena. Most of these players, on average, have a career of 4 to 5 years. They've already played 2 years. It could be another 3, 4, 5 more years, and it's not fair to them. It took me a while to understand that, probably a week or so, a lot of soul-searching, thinking, and praying, and they're right. I just can't do that. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to the NHL. It's not fair to anybody, and that's why I made that decision. But let's be clear. The reason I did this is because I told them I am not going to sell the team. We have to work out a plan that makes sense for everyone so I can continue to move forward with the team over a period of time. And that's when they decided to go, it's not an expansion team. It's more of a inactive to activating again, and the process begins on June 27th.
I don't want to spend too much time looking in the rearview mirror and would rather look through the front windshield here. But I am curious from your perspective, given that it was less than a year ago, What do you think went wrong in Tempe with the vote, with the vote that was last May? What got sideways on that one from your perspective?
Look, when the public does not understand and they believe that all you got to say is a billionaire tax help or giving free money to a billionaire, they don't go for it. And even though it's not true, I'm not asking for anything. I wasn't asking for any taxes, any tax abatements, or help from the public in constructing the arena. They didn't, for whatever reason, they didn't understand that and they didn't accept it. But it's funny because now you've got the Kansas City Chiefs, who just recently have won 2 Super Bowls.
Lost the vote.
And lost the vote. That tells you everything you want to know. The public doesn't understand it. If they think it's some kind of a tax abatement or free money for a billionaire, they're opposed to it.
I'm going to follow up on that. What would you say then? What would you say is the biggest mistake in this team right now relocating to Utah over the last few years? What was the biggest mistake that led us to this point?
Look, I would say it really starts from the beginning. There's not one mistake. It starts from the beginning. They come here and they play in Phoenix Arena, which had so many seats or
4,500, a limited view, couldn't work.
Correct. There were so many obstructed views and seats that they had to relocate to Glendale. Glendale was another mistake because it was so far away from the public and the fans that they could never generate the attendance that was necessary. So that was another failure that just didn't work. I was basically kicked out. No, I was kicked out of the arena. They asked me to sign for 20 years, and I said I wouldn't do that. And when I said no, they said they would kick me out. I didn't think they would do it, and they did. They thought for sure I would never have enough time to relocate it to a different city in the East Valley, and they were wrong. I went to Tempe. During that 2 years in Tempe, I've seen numbers I've never seen before. It's been extremely successful, and we've generated more revenues, not even close to what we were doing at Gila, for 18,000 seats versus the 4,400 we have at Tempe. So I am convinced that hockey works in the desert.
How realistic is it? Because a lot of people are going to ask this question. How realistic is it that hockey will return to the desert? And in your mind, what has to happen for this team to be reactivated within 5 years?
It starts June 27th with the land auction. Once I purchase that land, then we move forward with the city of Phoenix and all the city officials and the city itself, and I need their commitment and their help to making sure that this project cannot happen by itself. It's a huge undertaking that, as we know, any sports project like this, the city has to come in and work with us.
I think it's really important that you are speaking today. So again, I do appreciate it because I think it's important for the fans to hear from you. One of the things that we've heard, and I'm sure you've heard, is from fans and media is that, okay, he had an NHL team, he lost the team, documented of not paying bills late. Why should everyone trust that you're going to get this done the right way? Well,
first of all, I already said that I have the team. It's currently now inactive as opposed to activated. So the team is still there. In regards to me getting the commitment or having the fans feel comfortable, look, I believe in actions, not words. And the actions start come June 27th. As far as paying the bills, it's impossible to be in business for 40 years and not pay my bills.
Alex Meruelo is our guest here on the Burns and Gambo show. If I may, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about this land bid coming up on June 27th because I'm very curious about it. First and foremost, let's get this kind of out there and on the record. If for whatever reason you don't win the bid, is that it? Is that your, for lack of a better way of describing it, the last straw when it comes to your ability to build an arena here? And how does that amplify the importance of the June 27th date for you?
You can never say that's it, but to me, I am fully focused and committed on buying that land June 27th, and it's very important that that happens.
Is there a price that's too high for the land if there is an auction on it, if there are other bidders who show up?
If other bidders show up, make sure you deposit your money, get your paddle, and we'll bid one against another.
A follow-up to both of those questions, if I may, and I have not heard this speculated upon or addressed, so I'm very, very curious. If, for whatever reason, you get the land and some unforeseen circumstance pops up that prevents you from building there, you have 5 years would you renounce your reactivation rights before the end of the 5 years if you come to realize that you don't have the opportunity to build an arena here, be it because you don't win the land bid or because the government officials are not cooperating in a way that you would want? Would you make the choice to not use the full 5 years to attempt to reactivate the organization?
No, I would sit down and work with the NHL offices and explain to them what's going on and make sure we can work a different plan or different ideas so we can move forward with this purchase.
Okay, so
not purchase, but really the development of the project.
So you're going to use the full 5 years. That
Yes.
is absolutely
My intent is to use the full 5 years,
Okay.
and not only that, but work with the NHL. You will see tomorrow during the interviews and the statement that we're going to have with Gary Bettman and myself. You'll see the commitment from Gary, how important it is to him because he believes in Arizona, and he's right. He's been here for 20 years, constantly advocating for the hockey team, and he's told me when I first bought the team that this is his dream, and he's had so much invested. We are all committed on getting this thing done.
The Coyotes have had 8 different owners, and I do think that there is sins of the past that you have had to deal with. I totally do with the way this all went out. But it does seem that a lot of the owners have cared more about the real estate portion of it than the team itself. So give me your perspective. Do you care as much about the team as the real estate, and why do they have to go hand in hand?
Well, I care about the team and the arena. That's the first thing that will be built. So to answer your question, I'm all in for the Coyotes, the fans, and the arena. With that, usually, if you can create or build a district, it makes it more financially viable. But you've got to start with the arena, period.
A lot of people ask the question, do you have the financial ability for this project? And what help will you need from the city of Phoenix to get this across the finish line and bring Coyote hockey back to Arizona?
So I already had the financing in place before this deal went down. So you can imagine now I've got a huge war chest to get the project built. So financially, not a problem. What I need from the city, this project is too big. It's transformational. We will need cooperation from the city to help me make this dream, this project a reality. And they know what that means. It comes with permitting. There'll be a lot of decisions that have to be made, but it's all within their spectrum, and they can make it happen if they want to.
But you're saying all along no taxes on this, right?
I'm saying I do not need any tax assistance. That is correct. I have my own money. I don't need the public money to get this arena built.
How about as far as the infrastructure is concerned? Would that be a tax district of some sort that could assist in the infrastructure that would take place around the arena?
That is correct. That's correct. So number one is you need the city to be involved when it comes to the process and the permitting. That is normal. And then, of course, the city also, there's a state law that was enacted a couple of years ago that is a theme park district that conveys my purchase of land to the district, and then that has different advantages when it comes to what we need for the arena and different aspects. I don't know all the information.
But it's not a tax. You don't look at it as a tax.
It is not a tax. It is not a tax on the taxpayer.
Okay, so in some ways, this is very much like, I know every time I go to Italy every year and I sit down at a table, there's a coperta. There's a tax. It's $4 to sit at this table, and that's what I have to pay. Is that what it would be? The users of the facility would pay something that would go into the project to support the infrastructure?
That is correct. That's exactly right.
Okay, Alex Meruelo is our guest here on the Burns and Gambo show. I'll follow up just on the Phoenix element of this if I could. Generally, when taking the temperature of the officials that you've spoken to so far about this, what is your read on their willingness to cooperate with you, to help with you, and how far have those conversations gone so far with the city of Phoenix?
I have not personally spoken to any official yet. I've had Javier Gutierrez and a few of the people that work with me comment on that. I believe they're supportive, but I personally want to meet with the mayor. I think we have a date soon, and the city officials, and make sure they understand who I am, what I stand for, and how this project is so important and opportunistic for the city of Phoenix.
You mentioned the commitment of the commissioner of the NHL, Gary Bettman, and the statement that was released announcing the sale. He reaffirmed that commitment. Tell me and tell our listeners, if you will, about your relationship with him and his commitment to seeing this through and getting this done. How confident is he in you, in your ability to use these 5 years and get what ultimately everybody wants, a new arena and the NHL back in the Valley?
First of all, he is extremely committed. He's got 28 years invested into this opportunity in this hockey team in Arizona. He's extremely committed. As far as me, he knows that I am the only one that can get this project done. He's told me before, and on a couple occasions, if it doesn't work with me, it won't work with anybody. He's very supportive. You'll see that tomorrow. And I can tell you that I agree with him, and we're very engaged, working together every day on this, and I believe we can make this happen.
What will you do to keep the Coyote name and image alive over these next 5 years? We've talked about Roadrunner Hockey coming to the Mullet Arena, and I know they've got a lease agreement that you're probably going to have to work all of that out, but what can you do over 5 years to make sure that hockey has a presence? There's so many youth hockey programs in Arizona that are thriving. What will you do to keep the presence of the Coyotes alive and to keep youth hockey and programs alive?
So when this transaction takes place and it's basically done, we plan on keeping all the hockey when it comes to business operations intact. I also kept in this deal, which never happens, I kept the AHL team that plays currently in Tucson, and we're going to move them up to the arena. The youth hockey will stay as is, and I will be underwriting that, which is a very important thing because there's so many thousands of kids, boys and girls, and families that depend on this, and it's very important to me. The foundation, the Coyotes Foundation, will stay in place. So I would say the best way to look at it is the only thing that I've really done is I sent the players in hockey operations to Utah. Everything will stay the same with the Coyote logo, all the IP, all that comes with it that I currently have will stay intact.
But you do understand, and I think this is really important to get your feeling on it for the fans. The players that they loved, the players that they bought jerseys for, the players that they were invested in, they're gone. The Coyotes' history is going to go to Utah. You may be able to keep the name and start, and you will have to have an expansion draft. There'll be all new players. What do you say to those fans that have lost their team, their identity, their favorite players? What would you say to them?
It's horrible. I apologize. It's something that I tried at every cost to avoid. And what I take solace is understanding that more importantly is the career of these players. To keep them here in a campus facility for another 3 or 4 years was not right. And that's what I think that's the most important thing, that I had to come to a realization that no matter how much I love these players, and I sat down with them, I spoke to them, several of the players and the team leaders of the players, and it was a long conversation. It was very emotional in many aspects because these are my kids. I along with Bill Armstrong and my son, handpicked these individuals the last 3 or 4 years. To see them moving on is gut-wrenching. But it's not fair to them or their families.
Everybody learns from their mistakes. We all do. What will you do differently the next time? When you look at the last 5 years, and obviously you took over and the pandemic came, and again, I mean, you were in a tough spot right there. What will you do differently the next time professional hockey is here in Arizona?
That's a hard question to answer, but I can tell you this. What I will do differently, and what I said from day one, I don't believe, and I've seen it before the last several years at Gila, that the way it was situated, the Coyotes in Phoenix, in Glendale, did not work. And my goal is to do what has to be done from day one, is build the Coyotes a facility, an arena they should be proud of, that they can call their house, their home. And that is what I want to do, what I've been thinking from day one. That's what I think is the most important part of the Coyotes' future and for the fans.
So you want to win, like this team has had a low payroll every year, and part of it is because of the financial situation. New team, new start, new beginning, new arena. The finances will be there to put a competitive winning team on the ice?
Well, it's a lot easier when you're at 18,000 or 17,000 seat arena as opposed to 4,000. It's not the same, right? It's hard to compete financially when you're at a disadvantage during the entire league. So no matter how you look at it, it was almost impossible because you're operating at most teams are at 20,000 capacity. I'm operating at 4,000, 4,400 seats capacity. It was impossible to really compete where I wanted to be.
So I want to just give you an opportunity to thank the fans for the support and say whatever you may want to say to them. But a lot of hockey fans are listening. A lot of Coyote fans are listening. We carry the broadcast here on this station. What would you say? What would you say to your fan base right now about everything that's going to happen and about what the future may hold?
It's very emotional. It's very difficult for me personally. I understand. I try and understand what you're going through, because to have your team or your players moved, it's very difficult. And I'm not professing I will ever have that same understanding. I can tell you, as a huge fan of the Coyotes, I feel your pain. As an owner, it's extremely difficult. But from here on out, what you need to understand is that I have not sold the actual team. I've kept everything like I explained during the conversation. That June 27th will be the start of a new beginning for the Coyotes and what we want to do. And I also would like to say to believe me, but I believe I also understand believing is actions. It's not words, it's actions. And you will see that start June 27th.
So putting a winning team on the ice, spending, above the ceiling on the cap, and putting the right pieces in place to secure a winning organization here in Arizona. Tell me about that.
Yes, absolutely. As we've been talking during the conversation, I want you to understand that during my tenure, last 4 years, we've done all the right things to make sure we had the draft picks and get our team to be a winning organization, and we have done that. And I'm very proud of that. Can we do it again? Absolutely, we can do it again. And more importantly now, as we move forward into a new arena, building the state, first-class, state-of-the-art arena, we can now spend what it takes to win a championship, to win a Stanley Cup, and that is to the cap and beyond the cap as necessary. We believe we can do that now with this new facility.
That's something that fans are going to want to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.